On Germany's Baltic coast, NATO troops are rehearsing for a war it hopes never comes. On Wednesday, thousands of NATO troops stormed into action along Germany's shoreline to showcase war games. Well, defence officials openly describe them as a show of readiness and a warning aimed directly at Russia. At the Putin training ground near the northern port city of Kiel, NATO naval forces and special operations units practiced what a rapid response counterattack might look like if Europe ever faced a real invasion threat. Well, this drill is part of the wider Steadfast Dart 2026 exercise, a massive multinational operation running from January through March. Around 10,000 troops from 11 European NATO countries are involved, with Germany alone deploying about 7,300 of them. The operation is especially important because it's the biggest maneuver yet for NATO's Allied Reaction Force, a rapid response formation created in 2024 to prove NATO can move troops fast across alliance territory if a crisis emerges.
It shows that the alliance is united, capable of action, and ready to act. It is operational and perhaps demonstrates what the European partners within NATO are capable of achieving. Incidentally, Steadfast Dart and exercises like this show that we are serious about deterrence and about building the necessary capabilities. We are investing and procuring more. We also train together as NATO allies, and Germany is assuming its responsibility in this regard. The message to our NATO partners is clear. NATO can rely on Germany as a key hub.
NATO kann sich auf Deutschland als Drehscheibe verlassen.
But there was one detail that stood out. No American soldiers were taking part. That absence comes at an awkward moment because it follows US President Donald Trump's recent threat to annex Greenland, a threat he later backed down on. For now, but one that rattled European allies. Well, still, Germany pushed back against the idea that the missing US troops reflected political tension.
The Allied Reaction Force
does not have any direct troops from the United States this year. However, that may change again next year or the year after. Nevertheless, it will be the task of NATO headquarters in the Netherlands to add capabilities in the cyberspace. And here, of course, the Americans are making their contribution to enable this Steadfast Dart 2026 exercise.
And behind the choreography of jets and ships is a very real fear. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine has now been raging for almost 4 years, and European security officials are increasingly worried that Moscow could eventually test NATO territory directly. European governments also claim Russia is escalating what many now call hybrid warfare. And Vladimir Putin has been blunt about the threats.
We hear, and you know this, in Germany, for example, they say that the German army should once again be the most powerful in Europe. Well, fine. We're listening carefully, watching. What exactly is meant by that? I think no one doubts that Russia's response will not be long in coming. The response to these threats will be, to put it mildly, very convincing. It's precisely a response. We ourselves have never initiated a military confrontation.
And Russia is not slowing down, despite suffering an estimated 1.2 million battlefield casualties since the war in Ukraine began. Russia has still expanded its army by 234,000 personnel in 2025. NATO has far greater numbers, about 3.4 million active soldiers, compared to Russia's 1.3 million. And NATO has massive air power strength too, with around 22,000 aircraft versus Russia's 4,000. But NATO has always relied on one thing, the certainty that America would eventually show up, a certainty that is now being tested to its limits. So Steadfast Dart isn't just a military drill, it's a rehearsal over how Europe may have to face the reality of dealing with threats on its own.
The streets roared her name. Supporters climbed rooftops. History seemed ready to repeat itself. Then it happened. A flash. A burst. Panic swallowing cheers. In seconds, Benazir Bhutto was gone. Not voted out, not defeated, but assassinated. Catch the full story on the assassination at these times, only on Firstpost.